I'm going to give you a quick introduction to Evercam, how we got to where we are, how reality capture is changing, and changing how construction is operating, and then kind of leave with a few examples of where it's working and a few examples of sort of what we're learning from our customers about how it's working. I'm one of the founders of Evercam. We started life 15 years ago building software for cameras, and just over 10 years ago we started focusing on the construction industry, realizing that that's where you can solve expensive problems. That's where having the data, having the images, having the proof of what happened is much more valuable than the other areas that we've been working with. We're all over the world at the moment. Our biggest, most exciting projects are in data centers, life sciences, chip plants, and luckily we've landed on a lot of them around the world, and then on a lot of other campus projects, airports, stadiums, stuff like that. And then a lot of you would know us from the Irish projects that we're on, which ranges everything from small projects to the biggest infrastructure jobs in the country. The idea it started with cameras, just fixed position cameras, always on, record everything. We made a few assumptions when we started building that system that we were lucky we made years ago about capturing all the data, and what it has grown into is a platform for reality capture where you can match what's actually happening or what actually happened in a particular place at a particular time with what the plans were, what the data says, what the report says, what it says in Procore, what it says in AConX, where the P6 said you should be, and then the speed at which you can get to the proof of that is where it gets exciting and more usable. I think it came up in first presentation there is that risk of just having too much data, too much information. If you have too much information, it's very hard to actually get any results, and that's what we were finding for the first few years when we started gathering computer vision data for our clients. Was hard to actually turn it into actionable data. So we have here are the platform where the inputs are the cameras, the BIM model, the drone, 360 walk around cameras, and I'm sure you've all seen these. And the current situation for most sites is walking around with those. Okay, our videos aren't popping up. That's okay. One of the assumptions we made was record everything, and that is that you record the full frame rate video of the whole project. So the tiny bit that you do need, you don't need 99% of what you record, but the bit that you do need when you have an incident or an accident or dispute, you have it there in full frame rate. And what we're adding to that is the ability to go and then search it based on what was happening or what appeared in the frame at the time. What I love about the simplicity of this is not super clever. This is two images, and this was a contractor dispute about where the groundworks were, where the services were running after they'd all been covered up. And this is very simply two images and a JPEG made out of them, and you can drag and have an X-ray tool. It's really simple, but it only works if you have the two images. It only works if you recorded the entire project and it's sitting in the same place where it should be. So again, it's turning the person who needed that information from having to go and find that and create this to where we want to be, is that as soon as they know what the question is, they can request it using a natural language question and ask it to try and come up with the answer, but only the answer where it can be proven based on the data that we've collected. Also handy having the BIM model, having it on available to view from the drone, the 360 walk around, and having it available. Our old view of our reality capture data was always a calendar, and the calendar was, we have your images from this date to this date, and lots of you who are Evercam customers will know that could be stretching back 6-7 years, and we have all the data from number of cameras going from there to now, and you can find what you need. What's really interesting now is it's no longer looking at it like a calendar. It's more like a timeline, and you're adding your drone flights, your 360 walks, the images you've taken from your camera, the downloads that you've made or that your colleagues or partners on the project have made, and it's all in a sort of a linear timeline from start to finish. And that can be zooming in on, you won't necessarily find the answer to what you're looking for from the fixed position camera, but you will be able to find it from the data of which vehicles were there, which subcontractors were there, or going into the comparison between the 360 walkthrough before and after that incident to see what changed, and generally use all that to get to the answer. And again, our goal is that all of this exciting data can then be you can find your answer and your conclusion without manually going through it. That you'll be able to look at it based on your existing data sets and what the reality capture info can tell you. So yeah, fixed position drone 360. The other things we're adding there are the likes of PPE detection, smart search, and gate analytics. Smart search is really interesting because you can now create a report. Instead of just, you can go into, say, a recording and say, show me every time a digger was close to a human in this corner of the site. And like, that's really good if you want to solve one problem in one area of the site. But you can now say, create that in a report, turn it into a PDF, upload it into this folder once a week on a Friday with those incidents, and have a link to each incident. Gradually, you're learning which, you're training the model to say this doesn't count, or you're feeding in your own health and safety rules to show what's allowed and what's not. And obviously, the construction site is changing all the time, so it's trying to minimize the false alerts. The reality capture, a lot of people would have there would be reluctance from a lot of directions at the beginning of reality capture. It's like, I don't want my project scrutinized, I don't want everything recorded. Those days are kind of gone on any major project, right? Everybody is going to be wearing a wearable of some description. As Charlie was showing us on the robots there, one of the examples was the kind of robot dog that walks around, or the drones that fly around. They're going to be everywhere. And people are going to have wearables, they're going to be on their helmets, they're going to be on their 360 devices. So we would look at the sort of reality capture spectrum of being your really high accuracy models, where you've got your drones and you've got your everything right down to the millimeters, and then all on the spectrum all the way over to the high frequency, which is everything is recorded. And ideally, between those things, you have your important areas captured and you can get your questions answered. So what we're doing is recording everything, putting it into a nice system that's easy to visualize, using AI to kind of analyze it, and the most important bit is the end there, is the connectors. It's where do you want the data, where do you want the results, what other systems are you using that will then bring only the data that you want to scrutinize, or only the data that you want to share with your partners. That you don't have to, if you give everyone everything, they won't find what they need to prove their point on the project. So again, this is all the sort of sequence of capture, but the end parts there are the most exciting. Is what we're learning now is how to query the models and get usable results. So basically capturing everything, analyzing it, making a note of what's what, and having all of the results captured with the view to then giving the customer the trial to ask it the questions. So looking here at basically ChatGPT and what has changed between these two models, it's not there, but it's getting there. And when the more information you can give it, the more likely you are to get accurate results. And what very often comes down to is having the definable results. So you can make some assumptions, or the AI can get it close or get it right or whatever, to a certain degree. When you have the actual nailed down data of the other associated features that we have, like the gate report, then you know. So regardless of anything clever with reality capture or AI or anything like that, if you know how many concrete trucks have come through the gate, you have a fair idea of how far along you are on the project. If you know how many skips have left, you have a fair idea of where you are on your sustainability goals, or whatever the things you're measuring are. So what we're doing is trying to turn the reality capture data into structured data and have it on the repeatable answers to the same questions that our clients are asking at each stage of the project. So this was one of our, I suppose when we built this first, the whole idea was recognize each type of truck. Is it full or empty? What's in it? When's it coming in and out? What we realized was we had to actually nail down adding the gate report, adding the number plate to that, because getting 50 Roadstone trucks through the gate doesn't tell you how efficient you're being with unloading. It's if you don't know exactly which one came in and which one came out. So the original model then was, the output was, here's a link to all the videos, or here's a link to the number of trucks that come in and out. And when we sat down with our customers and gave them models gave them the facility to actually ask more structured questions, they were looking at how long it took to unload, but the simple things of reporting of, again, a lot of it came back to the simplicity of, show me the first truck in and the last truck out of my site every day last month. And that tells you whether you're starting on time, whether you're finishing on time, and a little bit about the actual results. The reason the title here is "Are the Lights On?" is we had a client who knew that they were being billed for work in a data hall that was being disputed, and we were looking for all sorts of clever ways of determining whether they were being invoiced for the right amount of work when the works were taking place. And there was brainstorming of people counting, heat mapping, all of these things about when the works were taking place. And the more we looked at the project and looked at the what was happening on the site, it came down to, are the lights on? If the lights are on, they're working. If the lights are off, they're not working. If you've got an invoice that says they were working when the lights were off, they weren't. And sometimes that's really where we're trying to get to. That there's loads and loads of data, there's loads and loads of clever stuff, but if you're sitting down with the customer and you have all the data, if you can find that question, you're saving everybody a load of complications, and you're giving them a guideline of preventing future problems. So again, that's the current answers of, you know, how many trucks came through the gate. You can get a bulletproof answer. Where we're trying to get to is being able to ask the slightly more nuanced questions and get kind of usable answers for the customers. And one of our rules there that we try to live by ties in with are the lights on? It's the right tool. Like, is there something else? We get customers coming, you know, in COVID, there was people coming to us going, can we use your cameras to see if people are 2 meters apart? Can we use cameras to do all this? Very often, that's not the answer. Cameras, reality capture, all that data, it's really complex, it's really hard to query, it's really tricky. So if there's another tool that'll do the job, and then you can back up its answer with an image, then that's often the right way to do it. Whether it's an IoT device, whether, you know, people looking for cameras to see if there's going to be water on the ground. No, you have an IoT device that costs next to nothing and uses nearly zero battery, and that'll tell you if there's water on the ground. If you want our camera to say who was in there when the pipe burst, we'll tell you that, but don't use it to do anything too clever that something else could do, and then when you do need the images, you have them, and you have them afterwards. So what we're really seeing now, one of our sort of aha moments for Evercam was when we were over with our customer in Columbus, Ohio, with Intel, when they were building the fab plant over there, and we sat down with them using Evercam in Ohio, and half the time they were looking at their Ohio cameras, and the other half they were looking at leak slip, because that leak slip were 2 years ahead of them, and they were looking back at how did the guys tackle these problems. Yes, it's different regulations, different temperatures, different suppliers, but ultimately they're building the same thing. So they're querying what did happen, and then our challenge now is building that database, best practice database of sort of making it safer, faster, more efficient, and as AI improves, the ability to do that improves massively. So that's where we're trying to make progress at the moment. I've gone over time. Thank you very much.